Okay. All right. We're waiting for a few more people to come in. We got a packed house today. This were a flight, we'd be looking for people to check their luggage. So welcome to the Renegade Consortium, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about how we can work smarter, not harder, because as in the last webinar, in the last panel, we talked about what's going on in the industry and how we're able to lean in technology. We're going to be talking a little bit about that today. But one of the things that we would like to focus on is I think all of us wish there were more hours in the day. I think there's a saying, it's like everybody has the same amount of hours in the day as Beyonce, but do you really? Because she's got an army of people at her disposal, and now we're able to use technology and have different ways that we can increase our efficiency throughout the course of our work week so that we can get some of those hours back to work on some different things, work on transactions during the week. So there are some people that have just cracked that matrix code. That's what we're going to talk about today. And one of the first things we're going to talk about is how we can be more efficient. So I do want to talk. Should we do some introductions first? If people don't know who we are, let's start. So Stephen, why don't you kick us off?
Hi, everybody. I'm Stephen Meadows. I'm Chief Operating Officer of Coldwell Banker Premier. We are a large mid-Atlantic brokerage, and I am a very task-oriented individual. So efficiency is something I always strive for because I have a lot of plates spinning at all times. So this topic is very near and dear to my heart.
I love it. Yeah. And you and I have talked about some of the things that we're going to talk about today, of like, how much is your time worth, and what are the things that you need to do versus, it needs to get done, but let's let somebody else do that. You know what I mean? But Andrew, you're like the automation king. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the ways that we're going to be able to do this and be more efficient.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Andrew Becker. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Billions, which is a real estate team operations platform built on top of Salesforce. That is chock full of automation that I'll hopefully provide some insight on today. My past life, though, I built a pretty high volume, high transaction real estate team that's still operational today. I just am not involved in the day-to-day operations around that, but still active, still getting sales, still making moves using the platform that we built. And the reason why I built it was for a need for this discussion, right? So happy to bring my expertise to the discussion today.
Absolutely. Oh, that we're gonna, if you didn't understand what all of those words meant, we're gonna get into some definitions too. So I know, so there is some jargon that we're using with automation, but you know what? We're gonna explain all of that once we dive in a little bit later. Michael Ehrlich, you are the recommendation person that I go to now. If there's a technology tool that I need, I know that I can look at your LinkedIn feed and find 25 of them. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So lovely. I'm gonna actually just read off my LinkedIn as far as like my
perfect.
I label myself as an explorer, a metaverse enthusiast, a prop tech fanboy, an EQ and AI, emotional intelligence, adventurist, experimental marketing engineer, a realtor. I am the current community engagement and strategic partnerships officer at a company called Scout, where we leverage data and AI to help agents meet their ideal customer through technology. Been in the prop tech space longer than I want to tell anybody. But yeah, no, it's been a fun ride, and look forward to the future of what's going to happen with regards to real estate tech and agents.
I love that. Yeah. And my name's Tom Shively. I've been in training and engagement for prop tech companies for about a decade now. And we're going to be talking about how we can lean in and utilize some techniques on top of technology and how we can increase the efficiency of our day. So that's where we're going to kick this off. Is there are some agents, some high performers out there that we look at from a distance, and it looks like they work 20 hours a day, and we have no idea how they get all of that done. So, Andrew, let's start with you. What are some of the ways that you find that agents can save time by being more efficient?
So I think there's two two concepts I'd like to touch based on them, and I won't dive super deep into both of them right now, but we'll see where the conversation goes. But number one is I've been really into playbooks around things that need to get done in repeatable ways, right? So things that agents or anyone on the team is doing every day over time that gets worked on and iterated, et cetera. One of the biggest ways we were able to scale our real estate team was we made a playbook or a standard operating procedure. Some people might think them or know them more as, right? So any single task that ever got created, really big task or down to, how to make coffee in the office kind of a task, there's a playbook around it. So the idea, Tom, is anytime you need to do a certain thing, you go and you reference it, and it gives you the guide to get it 80%, 90% of the way done. So that's how you scale. And if Tom doesn't want to do that task anymore, and you leverage your time and you hire someone else to come in and do that, Tom isn't spending all of his time training that person on every single task that has to be done because you put in the time up front to create those playbooks. So you scale that way, faster, easier. And then as your model changes, as your tools change too, the playbook is designed in such a way where it's not that specific. So you can at least get the overall, hey, this is the end result in mind, and here's how you would go about doing it. You let the smart person that you just hired figure out the minuscule details, right? So that's number one. Number two is, and this kind of feeds in or bleeds into the Billions platform, but we automated on top of the playbook. Think of Billions as like an operations platform with all of the playbook automation built in. So at a very high level, to be able to focus on what do agents want to really focus on, right? Meeting with prospects and their clients and delivering results to their clients, right?
Making more money. That's it, right?
More money. Have the time to focus on the important stuff that matters to them, delivering on what they said that they were going to deliver on. So agents shouldn't be wasting their time being ineffective or unproductive with the minuscule administrative details of running their day-to-day operations, right? So a system in place that can automate tasks or calls or emails and alert you or proactively tell you when things are happening or not happening is also how you scale and how you get to where everyone wants to get to, right? Where they're not spending hours figuring out what's working, what's not. They're having something tell them what is working or who is working or who is not, or what is not working. So there's a lot packed into that statement that we can get into later, but I'll just leave it at that and I'll let someone else kind of chime in.
Yeah, I really like that answer, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about the SOP portion of that, the second side of that in a little while. But just so for anybody that doesn't speak technology too terribly well, that first portion where you were talking about your playbooks, what I imagined was a cookbook, right? Is that I'm definitely somebody who likes to, if you're gonna do something right, you do it right, you do it yourself, you know what I mean? So you write down that recipe, and then as you start to scale, you get more people like you were talking about, you hand them the cookbook and you're like, all right, it is only 2 pinches of parsley here, or else it's good, I want my business to be delicious. Is that semi what you're talking about?
Yes. So it was actually, the whole idea was derived from Betty Crocker's Christmas 1996 book edition. And that's where this whole thing came from, right? No.
Gotcha.
But yes.
Mama's
right.
cookbook.
So the idea is think of it like a franchise model, right? You buy a McDonald's franchise, they give you a playbook on how to cook fries. Take them out, open the bag, put it in for 5 minutes. So I'm making that up. But it's not like every single franchisee for a McDonald's figures out how to cook their fries differently, right? It's a branding and sort of like, this is what we're delivering time and time again. It's not perfect. Like, people do things a little bit different in their own way, but that's the idea. Repeatable, predictable. So if something does go wrong, you have an idea of what went wrong and you tweak the playbook accordingly. So it potentially might never happen again.
You ever go to a McDonald's and their fries are way too salty? That's what happens is when somebody takes the recipe.
Someone wasn't following the playbook, apparently.
But to that point, though, so that is one of the things that makes McDonald's So such a standard thing in America or around the world is it's very predictable. You can go to McDonald's. I know what a Big Mac is going to have on it. I know about what the fries are going to taste like. The ice cream machine may or may not work.
Probably doesn't work. Probably
but,
doesn't. Let's be honest.
Probably doesn't. Don't count on it, especially if you really want a Shamrock Shake and it's the last day you can get one. Probably not going to happen. Not that I'm bitter about it, but in your business, that is something to aspire to. Having that customer experience being repeatable, and you can deliver, so that when someone is referring someone to you, they've given a great depiction of what kind of service they're going to be getting. Well, they did this, and that. Oh, well, that's funny because they didn't do anything for me. They literally just did, And so by having that sort of model, you're able to deliver that predictable experience and get that predictable result. So like if you take that over to prospecting, if I do these 5 activities, I will get this result almost every time. So I think that's a brilliant way of doing it.
I mean, if you
absolutely, I want some. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, Tom, if you think about it the opposite way, if we were all on a team together, right? And Steven was the boss and he's like, hey, Tom, Mike, and Andrew, go recruit. And we all tried to figure it out on our own. How much wasted time would we have versus trial and error, figuring out, putting a playbook together, and then all following the same rules? To Steven's point, if you do these 5 things, we will get 20 people on the phone, 5 interviews, and we'll hire 1 person. If we're all just shooting from the hip all the time, recreating the wheel each and every time, it's a massive, massive loss of productivity in that day that you're doing it, but also over the course of the year. Think about how much time you are wasting not having an SOP in place.
Absolutely. Steven, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here because you're somebody who coaches agents even right now. That's what you're doing in the building that you're currently sitting in. So when you have a new agent, or even if you're coaching somebody who's been in the industry for a long time we're navigating the current industry, you said they do these 5 things. What are the 5 things that you think are the most important to help automate? I mean, I don't know if you have time to type it in ChatGPT right now, but give me some 5 things that we can coach our agents on in being specific of what's going to be helpful in today's market.
Well, so I mean, I made up the number 5. So 85% of statistics are made up on the spot. So right. 5 things was just an example. So I don't know if I'll come up with 5, but
okay.
I mean, take prospecting for instance. Start with your sphere of influence. Number 1, start with the people that know, like, and trust you. Have you told them you're in the business? If you will commit to contacting everyone in your sphere, maybe break it up, and let's say you have 100 people in your sphere and you do 5 handwritten cards a day, and you do it every day for a month, every work day. It'll take you about a month to get through your whole sphere. It's only 5 a day. It's not that much. You could probably do 10 a day if you really tried, but like, you're probably going to get something back from that. Not necessarily them wanting to transact, but they may say, oh, Aunt Sally wants to do such and such, or my neighbor was talking about, I just sold an air compressor today that's been in my garage for a while, and I was talking to the lady, and she's buying a house. I'm like, man, she would have contacted me like 2 weeks ago. I could have, because she's like, we just got approved for our mortgage. I'm like, I could have gotten you a better deal on the mortgage, I bet. But anyway, I digress. But it's that personal connection. It's knowing someone who knows someone who knows someone. So just contact those people. Number 1, just sit down and consistently reach out to your sphere. And I guarantee you, most people have a larger sphere than 100 people, unless you're brand new to a market, which I have an agent who did that several years, 3.5 years ago, came to this area, knew 2 people, and has grown her business every year with, she started with lead gen and then now has built a sphere and now gets referral and repeat business. But so she's kind of the outlier, but most agents getting in the business have a sphere of people. So come up with a good way of contacting them. So I'm a big fan of handwritten things. I have terrible handwriting. And so people know.
That's how they know it came from you.
If I wrote something, they're going, Steven definitely took the time to write this, because I have to be very careful. Otherwise I've the handwriting of a doctor or a serial killer, whichever metaphor you prefer. Right. But it's terrible. So if I do it, it took very specific, I was very dedicated and I wrote it out. But even if you just handwrite the envelope, let's say you're farming or you're mailing a neighborhood or something, handwrite the envelope at the very least. You can have a printed letter, but handwrite the envelope. They're more likely to open it. So it's just
Steven,
dumb things like that.
Can I challenge the listeners out there too around that? I think that's a fantastic idea, but that takes a lot of time, right? If you write one handwritten letter and time yourself, I'm assuming getting it out, writing it, stamping it, address, whatever, you can get a sticker and do it faster. But I challenge those out there listening to find a software solution to integrate directly into your platform where you can type out a template and send the order away in 30 seconds or less by saying, hey, all people on my platform equals sellers and this and that, build that criteria. You would be shocked at your rate of return on whatever the expense that might be compared to what your return or hourly rate would be. So if you're making $100 an hour, but it's $25 an hour for someone to set that up and to, put that order in, that's an ROI instantly. And you're not sitting down doing that. You're then spending time with family, right? Or going to the movies or doing whatever you want to do instead of having to do that. So in the spirit of automation, I had to throw that out there.
Let me guess.
I like that.
You happen to have that built into your system, right?
Maybe.
Into the billion system.
I will say, so when it comes to like large projects, so Christmas card time or whatever, I have a hit list of people that get Christmas cards from me, brokers and business contacts. I don't necessarily handwrite my own cards. If your handwriting is very identifiable, just make sure that the people you don't handwrite don't know what your handwriting looks like. So I make sure like these people have never seen my handwriting, so they won't know it's not from me. Or at the very least, I will have someone address the envelope for me. So like I was sending out a bunch of letters for a merger project, and I had one of our staff people address the envelopes. And I actually had a broker call me and said, hey, I got your letter, not interested in selling my company, but I just wanted to call and thank you for handwriting that envelope. That was a really nice touch. Oh, and we had like a 10-minute conversation. It was great. He's not interested in doing any business or whatever, but just the fact that he reached out and said that was like, that just validated to me that is a good practice. But I agree, if you can automate it, go for it.
I'll throw out a second challenge to that, Stephen. So if you always use an ordering mechanism that's automated, they think that's your handwriting from the get-go, then you won't run into that problem ever, right?
What was the challenge?
He just wants to challenge me. He's telling me to cough up the money and pay someone else to do it.
To do something.
The challenge to think about it that way. If you want to be, he hand wrote the letter, but if you order it from a robot that handwrites it for the first time, right? Every other subsequent handwritten letter would look like your handwriting, right?
So those machines you can buy, and they're like $400. I wanted one so bad. I want to buy my own handwriting machine just for like the little stuff.
That would be cool.
That's the sort of AI that freaks me out a little bit. That's like we're using the robot to connect with people. But you know what? I understand the value in it.
It's no different than having a robot help you sound more human. Like, here, rewrite this so I can sound more empathetic.
Right. That's the part that freaks me out too.
Right.
Speaking of which, okay, so we're talking about that personal touch, that part of the transaction where we're connecting with our people. But before we get there has to be some brand recognition to get that communication, to start a transaction, to get into the room, to have that handshake with somebody. Michael, I want you to talk a little bit about what are some of those things that agents have to do that will get that brand recognition? Things like social media, things like getting things out online, creating videos, all those things. So are those things something that an agent should sit down and do every single week? Or is that something that we should outsource?
Great question. I actually wanted to just really, really quickly piggyback on what we were just discussing and recommend a book. And we'll actually give a free copy of it out to one of the people that are currently on our webinar. We'll just randomly pick it like the lottery. But there's a great book called Predictable Revenue. It was written by a guy named Aaron Ross, who essentially worked at Salesforce and helped them. Essentially, he created an inside sales process with a team and grew the revenue by $100 million. So it's a great book, and predictable revenue is essentially, I'm going to kind of put Billions out there because Billions uses similar technology or the same technology that helps scale businesses that big. So, when it comes to having automation, having process, in the beginning, obviously it's a pain to do, but it's going to pay dividends in the future. It's just a matter of getting there. So predictable revenue, check it out. We'll send a free copy to one of our users. Just wanted to drop that real quick, because it's relatable and it relates to Billions. But with regards to content creation, I mean, I think we've all kind of seen the content that gets shared online from not just real estate agents, but just people in general. Because the quinoa stuffed pepper recipe that sucks, or the 5 ways to stage your home for a spring sale that we always talk about, right? Like the content that's just straight up, I don't want to call it garbage, but it's garbage. It's evergreen content. I think that type of content will and is currently getting deprioritized. So you got to start crafting your own kind of messaging, and you can use AI to do that. And again, I'm not to drone on, but I recently, or I didn't put it out yet, I'm going to be putting out an article with regards to Google saying way back when AI generated content is going to be deprioritized with regards to our search engines, which is complete BS, because they have their own AI platform, right? So, when it comes to creating content, leveraging AI, giving it a direction, it's going to help you ideate and create content that's specific to you in your tone and different from what everybody else is doing. Even if somebody else is using AI to create their content, they're not going to get the same output that you get. So, I don't think outsourcing it, like hiring somebody to do my Instagram, is going to be helpful. Because at the end of the day, this is my business. I need to do it, and I need to be in it. So I am of the I'm in the audience of the do it yourself and not pay for it, because at the end of the day, with regards to real estate, you eat what you kill. You need to have that predictable revenue stream, right? And part of how you're going to get there is by creating your own content and creating a process around it using something like Billions.
I love it.
I see. So Andrew's not going to challenge Mike because he's talking about Billions in a nice way.
Yeah.
Let me turn up the sycophant a little bit here.
No, I'm sort of in that camp as well of get it when it comes to things like social, that very much is your appearance too. It's not necessarily just your thoughts or any of those things where you can send that out. Now there are pieces of that, like if you record a video, if you have somebody that can edit that for you, great, do that. But I think automating the social media completely that would be a mistake, because then your voice gets lost. It just becomes some sort of automated machine. But one of the things that I've talked to agents for the better part of 10 years, and one of the hardest things is finding the time to actually sit down and do it, because everybody's week is so busy that you find these successful agents and they're like, well, I have like 3 hours on Monday morning and I schedule my social posts out, and that is all the time that I have to commit to it. Or it's like a quick reel or a story or something that can go out really fast. If I'm at an event, it's like, hey, come find me, I'd love to talk, that kind of thing. So it can be something that's really quick like that. But if you are with your family at the fair, it is tough to find ways to get social media that is out there, that's valuable to people. But on the other side of that coin, it is valuable just to be in front of people, and to your point, Michael, like you were saying, that evergreen content, there is some value in that, in the sense that your name is out there. But you're right, there isn't a lot of value in the actual text of what's coming out.
I was actually looking, and this is an agent that actually shared this. She was posting stuff about, just general like real estate stuff on her Facebook business page. And then this is like during COVID. She was just posting regular stuff. There was little to no engagement. And then she posted something about helping, I don't know what it was. I think it was a shelter, but like she shared that on her Facebook page. It's got 89 likes, hearts, you know what I mean? So like that's the stuff people want to see, when so it's like really like people work with you because of you, right? Not because of, again, the brand brokerage.
Can I add a little to that, Mike?
Yeah,
I think
please.
thing. I mean, there is the, 5 things to do to declutter your house kind of thing, and people take it for what it is, right? That's more of a branding touch. But I'll take from the playbook also of Tony Robbins. I think it's called like No Extra Time. When I was in sales a few years ago, Tom, you brought up like 3 hours on Monday to do this. If agents are struggling to find time to do it, think of the no extra time. And an easy analogy or example of this is when you're driving, you listen to a podcast, right? So you're not wasting time. When you're at an open house, you can shoot video. When you're doing an inspection, you can take pictures. When you're doing, you're following on the photographer, you're creating content there. But I do think, to Mike's point about like the animal in the shelter, they just want to see, number one, the idea is to get seen, right? But also to be human. They don't just want to see a market update or stats or this or that. They can, quite frankly, go to Zillow or Google or wherever and just get those on their own. They want to see Mike doing something cool, or Steven at, out in the world living. So if you're really efficient with that no extra time concept, you can create content on the fly and not have a 3-hour window one time a week where you're creating it and then that's it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the 80-20 rule, especially for business, and like in real estate, your social media can be a part of your business, where it's 80% of, houses and stuff like that. And it's so easy just to continue to post stuff like that. But 20% puppies, or whatever Michael said, where it's like, or we have that kind of content where people are going to engage with it in that way. So you do have that personality to it, whether that be on LinkedIn or, more likely Instagram or TikTok, where people are.
It creates connection. Like I love animals, and that's something that like, oh my God, that's amazing that she did that. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's content that I can relate to. And it's like you watch TV, you see all these TV shows. Look at the content that they're putting in these TV shows, right? And people watch this, they consume it. So like, not to say, you're showing a puppeteer and somebody else that make $13 million a year, showing them, crazy houses, like whatever that show is. But interesting content like that is what people are really gonna engage with. I think it's just taking stuff from there and putting your own spin on it.
I love it. Steven, you're really good at the automation portion of this. And sort of to get back to the mission statement of today's webinar is, what are some of those things that we can use or use ChatGPT for, use technology for in social or in transactions, even descriptions of listings that go on the MLS? What are some of those things that we can lean into that technology for to get more hours back throughout the week?
So I go a little bit back to what Andrew kind of said in the beginning, is if it's a repeatable thing, make it as simple as possible. So back when I sold foreclosures hot and heavy during the recession, I was listing a lot of properties constantly, and there's always the same disclosures and disclaimers I'd had to put in the MLS. I had a copy and paste. I had it on a Word doc, and I would just, and I could get a listing in the MLS in like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes or whatever. It took my counterpart an hour because she's sitting there typing the whole thing. And I'm just like, wham, here we go. My photos are here. Yada, yada. So I'm a process person. So I think just knowing a process and just knowing I have to do, step 1, step 2, step 3 helps a ton with that. ChatGPT is a big help for content. So we talked about social media content. In fact, Mike and I just did a thing earlier today teaching agents how to do social media carousels, like LinkedIn carousels. If you look at me on LinkedIn twice a week, I'm got a carousel out there. ChatGPT makes the content. I drop it into some Canva templates that I had designed, tweak, change a few things here and there. it's done. I think I take maybe 30 minutes on the weekends, usually on a Sunday afternoon, and I schedule out all my LinkedIn stuff for the week. And it's super simple. And so it's just carving out time. I'm, as I said in the beginning, task oriented, probably too much. I have an app on my phone called Todoist. So it's like to-do list without the L. I live and die by that thing. If it is not on my list, it doesn't get done, probably in a bad way. And if I'm ever talking to someone and they've asked me to do something, I immediately pick my phone up and I'm like, I'm not being rude. I'm literally writing this down. And so it gets done. I have it categorized. I've got personal tasks and publishing tasks and whatever. It may seem super rudimentary, but having a to-do list every day to where I can open it up and it's like a calendar for me. It's like, I know these are the things I have to get done today. And if I get to the end of the day and I've got stuff left over, well, oh well, I bump it to the next day. I don't just drop it. I'm like, okay, this can be tomorrow. Usually about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I'm like, all right, that's a tomorrow task. That's a tomorrow task. And it really helps. Like I put people's birthdays on there. Like we have a birthday calendar for our company. I've got everybody's at the beginning of the week. I put all the birthdays on there every day. So I can go, oh, I got to wish them a happy birthday. Anyway, so well, it's so impersonal. I'm going to forget otherwise. I've got 260 agents in my company. I can't remember everyone's birthday. Okay. And so it's as an agent, you could do the same thing. So if you have your database and you have people's birthdays, put them in your phone, put them on a calendar, make sure you know, if you're going to send them a card, remind yourself a couple of days earlier or whatever. But some of that is so rudimentary and simple, but sometimes simple works. Sometimes, I've got people that they do everything on paper. They write their shopping list on paper. I write my shopping list in my Todoist app. I have an agent that exactly. I have an agent. She gets leads in on like an open house campaign that we run for her. And she literally takes a tablet of paper and draws lines and basically creates a spreadsheet on a piece of paper and has a checklist. Have I invited them to the open house? Have I sent them the listing? Da, da, da. She's like, don't laugh at me. I'm like, I think it's brilliant. Whatever gets the job done, she's converted multiple leads into other buyers doing that system. So it doesn't have to be flashy and shiny and all that. As long as it works, does it get you to do the tasks that have to be done? That at the end of the day is all that matters, is do the tasks that need to be done, outsource what you can, but as long as stuff is getting done, that's what's important.
There's so much of that. I feel like our industry of like, there's so many different ways to do things. And it all, I feel like funnels down into what you just said, which was find what works. Find what works to be successful and then continue to build on that and then use that as the foundation, which I love. Andrew,
people will spend thousands of dollars on coaches and things like that. Nothing wrong with a coach. But if you're not going to do what the coach tells you to do, coaches have systems. Systems work for a reason. But if you don't use the system, it's going to be a waste of your money. That's why I don't use a coach, because I'm probably not going to use their system because I have my own system. Not that it's theirs.
But you're a coach too, right?
I'm comfortable with what I've got and I know it works. But I'm a coach, so I have a dim view of coaches, technically speaking now. But yeah, so it's not about, it's like having a recipe book. I've got grandma's recipe books. Well, if I don't put the ingredients in the bowl, I'm not going to get the cake. I can have the recipes all day long. I still have to do the work and do them in the right order, or else I'm going to have a mess.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Andrew, don't you have your social media scheduled out like 3 months ahead of time?
Yeah. So we have a playbook on that where, and Stephen, I don't know if you know this, but I used to do the thing that you do with ChatGPT. Then I put it into Canva. And I'm not trying to hard sell Canva here, but they just embedded Magic Write AI into Canva. So what we do is we'll say, hey, give us 30, thought leader quotes or whatever in Canva. It'll populate that. We copy and paste it, do a bulk asset create, Tom, to get those 30 assets done for us in about 30 seconds. And then we individually take each of those assets and we go into the scheduler and we post out. I think we're through like November, December now. But what we do in our playbook is I think it's the 15th of every single month, I meet with our marketing person and we go through that and say, what do we want to talk about? What are the topics, the themes happening in the world or real estate, And then that's what we do. We go through and we create the content in less than 2 minutes and then just schedule it out. We change up the colors and, we use our brand theme that we have built into Canva, but takes like 5 minutes to do. It's great.
I do love the AI features in Canva. I haven't gotten to delve into them yet, but a lot of them, I've done some of them. I love the bulk create.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that. I've actually started creating videos for YouTube Shorts in Canva using bulk create.
Oh, cool. Yeah. There's a lot you can do like that automated way. Just literally go to YouTube and type in like easy ways to bulk create in Canva, and it's going to come up with 100 different things. Watch one of the videos that I honestly learned about that on Instagram. I watched like a 30-second video from like a Canva hack person. And then I was like, that's cool. I'm going to go record myself doing that multiple times, put it in a playbook, have a checklist, have the process, and then give it to someone on my team. And that's what we do. But think about pre-Canva, pre-AI, how long would that take to come up with 30 different things, let alone go and create the asset for each one? That's probably like maybe a week's worth of work if you're decent, right? Now it's like you iterate and you tweak it and you get better and better. And it literally comes down to like a 2-minute meeting where you know what to do. The hardest part is just like, what do we want to talk about this time?
Yeah.
Now, I will plug a really quick tool. It's along the same lines as playbooks. It's not as sophisticated, but it's called Scribe. And the website is scribehow.com.
Yeah.
If you have anything that it's literally like click, I need to show you. Instead of doing a screen share, I can do it one time. And every time I click on something, it screen captures it and creates a PDF or whatever. And I can edit it. So let's say I click something like, oh, I didn't mean to click that. I can just keep going and I can go back later and just delete that step. And I can write notes in there. I can reorder things if I want. Our admins love it. They're, because agents will say, hey, how do I do X? Here you go. Just read this guide. And the agents love it because it's actual screenshots. Click this up here, then click, and it like draws a circle around it. And it's so easy to use.
I'll second that. For our Billions customers, when they need to know how to add a user, for example, we'll scribe it out and loom it out at the same time, Stephen, so they can get the video and the scribe. And the scribe is something that you can convert to a PDF. So it's downloadable. They can print it out if they want to. But we have that. And that's a process that we're doing. We didn't want to do it into our playbooks because if the tools changed, then it would be obsolete and we'd have to redo it. But excellent tool. And it's very economical too. I think it's like $20 a month or something around there.
I have yet to pay for it. I know it does have a paid version that has other features. I have yet to need the other features.
I think we hit that limit where we had to pay, but it's very, very economical.
Sorry, I was just enthralled with the scribe and look. This is great. This all this automatic. I need to take some notes because I spend so much time. Like I do long form stuff like this with on a few different avenues, and I we'll go through and get because usually it's like a 2 or 3 minute clip, and then you cut it down to 1 minute as like a conversation, and that ends up being good content. But yeah, if we could automate that, that would be great, where you don't have to do stuff like that anymore. But I do want to talk a little bit more about some of those playbooks and things that we were talking about. So, and the analogy in my head about this is, in Europe, there's train stations that work with impeccable efficiency. I mean, if they say that a train's showing up at 1 o'clock, there is a train pulling in at 1 o'clock, not 1 minute before, not 1 minute after. And there's lots of people in this, the whole train moving, right? There's the conductors, the passengers, there's the people at the station, and they all work together to make sure that this efficiency happens to keep this train on the track. So there are ways that we can keep our business on the track See what I did there? And how we can do that is through these SOPs that we're talking about. So, Steve and Andrew, you both have talked about this playbook, but I want to hear about it. Can you give us a peek under the curtain here on what is like an SOP that you wouldn't mind sharing? That is, just take us through a couple of steps on okay, well, this is how it's going to work for my business. Let me write out what these steps are. So this one page is a page in my playbook. So right. I'll just throw it out there. Whoever wants to start, please.
Go ahead, Andrew. You're much more prolific with the playbooks.
All right, cool. So I actually just shared this in a Facebook group, but and I took this from one of my coaches, Dan Martell. So I don't want to act like this is something I came up with on my own. Just throwing that out there. But it's around the 4 C's. And what the playbook is, what we do, we have a playbook on playbooks. So anyone on the team watches the playbook on playbooks to know how to make a playbook. And then any single time you want to create one, you at least have that starter point, right? And we're not reinventing the playbook wheel while the purpose of a playbook is to not do that, right? So the 4 C's, the first one's the camcorder method. And I'll talk a little bit about each one. And then you have the course, the cadence, and the checklist. So camcorder method, if you wanted a specific example, I'll just talk about the social media thing, right? So creating assets in Canva. So the camcorder method means you go in and we use Loom, like I mentioned before, to screen record. It's high quality, it's really good. And you can make notes in it, and it also transcribes it and puts it into different like timestamp categories. So it's easily findable if you need like a certain section. But we will camcorder record us doing it 3 times. And the reason you do 3 times is because there's little nuances that might not have gotten picked up on the first time. So you do 3 times. Here's how we do creating this in Canva. And you're talking the whole time. You're saying, hey, we're going to think of an idea. We have to go over here, and this is why you want to do this. And then we type out the prompt, and make sure to say A, B, and C in the prompt, because you really want to capture this. So each time you're doing this, you're talking a little bit differently. You're capturing a little bit of the different nuances that you might have missed. And then you're putting those URLs into the playbook. So when you name the playbook, the creating assets in Canva playbook, so it's easily identifiable. I'll take another step back and say we have a playbook library by department. So there's marketing, sales, operations, HR, legal. When you create a playbook, you say, which makes sense? And there's a definition of what marketing means and what sales means. You say, this is a marketing playbook. So the creating assets in Canva playbook, you stick it into the library, and it just keeps building and building on each other, right? So when you have someone new to marketing, go, read and watch everything in the marketing playbook library. So I'll come back to the playbook. So now you have those 3 videos, and you come up with the course. So those are just the certain tasks. So task 1, go to Magic Write in Canva and type out what you want. Step 2, copy and paste everything. Step 3, go to bulk add in the content, etc. Step 4, go to the search bar and type in what you're trying to produce. So Instagram reel, or whatever it is, TikTok post. Step 5, copy and paste the content, because those 30 prompts need to get posted into whatever asset you have. Step 6, you kind of get the idea. And then there's the cadence, how often you're doing this. Some playbooks is every time, right? Some is like you do this weekly, like a financial report, you might want weekly or monthly. So you're not doing it every day. And then the final part is the checklist. It's like, hey, if Steven was my boss and I said, hey, I'm done with the Canva building, can you check it? He would say to me over my shoulder, well, did you remember to associate our brand kit with this? Did you switch up the different colors so they're not all blue? You want blue, black, red, whatever your brand colors are. So there's a checklist with the final say in, make sure you have everything done correctly. And then that's what a playbook is. Then you just make those for literally every task every time. And this got brought up before, where it can be seen as kind of painful, but if you do it at a high enough level where it's not like every tiny little detail, then it happens fast. And the more you do it, honestly, for me, the more obsessed I became with it, because they're fun. And then it's just like, even if I forget to do something, like I'll do something in January, I might not do it until June. I'm like, the heck was I doing? How did I do that? Pull up a playbook and it's right there. So
do that all the
I
time.
hope that answered your question, Tom, about
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
playbooks are. But and playbooks can be, we could add scribe to our playbooks if we wanted to. It can be whatever you want to be, but to Stephen's point, repeatable. That's going to save you more time than you can even, track, really. You just need a repeatable thing that you do consistently and not have to reinvent the wheel. So that's our use of playbooks.
I want to see that playbook on writing playbooks. It just seems very meta.
I just
shared it in our group.
I shared it.
It's on our group.
I'm telling everybody else I want to read it. All right, I'll go.
You have it, and I'm happy to share with anyone on the call today.
Perfect. Yeah. Stephen, that it's sort of along those lines. There's something that I want that you and I have talked about before, which I think is a good point to make here, is that understanding how much your time is worth. That is like such a big point. And I think, to Andrew's point of writing playbooks, you're saving yourself time, but you're also able to delegate tasks through those playbooks. You can hire some, like if you're running an entire company yourself, it's time to get a support person. Well, okay, what do they do? Here's the playbook. So how do you decide what is worth your time, and how do you coach agents on understanding the value, and by value I mean dollar value, of their time?
So this is probably a very outdated. I know it's outdated, but years and years and years ago, I had a broker, an older agent in our office, asked me to accompany her on showings on a Saturday, all day. And I'm like, oh, of course, Miss Laverne, I'll be happy to help you, whatever, da da da. But she's like, well, tell me how much I owe you. And I'm like, I don't know. So I went to the broker and I'm like, how much should I, charge her or whatever? And she was like, well, as far as I'm concerned, anything you do should be worth at least $50 an hour. Okay. This is, like I said, that's like 15, 20 years ago almost. And so I've just always kept that number in my head. And, happy to say, I feel like now my time is worth more than that, but that's just the number I've always had. It's an easy number, $50 an hour. I apply that to everything. I don't mow my own lawn because of that. I pay someone to clean my house. I mean, I clean my house, but like the big stuff's like, instead of me spending 3 hours of my time on a Saturday doing the bathrooms and the floors and all that, I'd rather just pay someone $120 or whatever to come in, because that's less than $50 an hour, and I mean, same thing with mowing my lawn. I used to live on half an acre in the city, and Nashville was awesome. I loved I could see downtown. It was awesome. And my friends are, oh, just get a riding lawnmower. And I'm like, I'm still not going to do that. Like, if I did it, I would do it for the exercise, which I don't like doing either. And I paid someone $35 every 2 weeks to mow my lawn. I had over half an acre, and they had like one of those big 54-inch zero turns. Like, they could whip it out in like 15, 20 minutes. It would have taken me hours. And so it was just easy math. So an agent, if you're doing these menial tasks, they have to be done a lot of times, but it doesn't mean that you have to be the one doing them. I learned this lesson at my first NAR conference, and it's very similar to the $50 an hour rule. There was a team leader for this huge team in Texas. I think it was the Crockett team. She was Century 21, I believe. And she stood up in front of this huge room of people, and she said, there's only one of you, and there's only so many hours in the day, and you're only going to grow your business so much by doing it all yourself. You're going to reach a point where you have to duplicate. Start with an assistant, or nowadays it's a virtual assistant where you can start very small. You don't have to go out and hire a full-time assistant. Hire a virtual person in the Philippines or wherever, at pennies on the dollar, to do some of these marketing tasks or whatever. And then you'll work your way up, and then I need an assistant. Now maybe I need a buyer's agent, but you can only do so much. And I think it's sort of a natural progression. You sort of sit down and realize, like, do I need to be doing this? I mean, I ask myself that all the time. I'll be doing something, I'm like, is this really a COO task? Like recreating a roster of all of our agents by office. I have the spreadsheet in front of me. Do I really need to? No. Hey, can you do this? I'm going to pass it off to somebody else. I want all the agents separated by office. Thank you very much. I've already downloaded the spreadsheet. I've already exported the information. It won't take her that long either, but when you talk about the time value of money, it's not a task that I feel like it's a responsible spend of the company dollar for me to do. It's not an ego thing. It's I have other things to do. I have stuff that needs to get done. Agents the same way. Would you rather be on a listing appointment, or would you rather be wrapping a present? I mean, I don't know. I'm just an example. Like, oh, I've got to wrap a closing gift for da da da. Somebody else can do that. Do you have kids? Have your kids do it. Kids are great laborers, and I think there's actually some IRS rule where you could actually pay your kids up to a certain amount tax free. I don't know. I don't have kids, won't have them.
Yeah.
Not a problem for me. But
Is that an allowance?
What'd you say, Michael?
We have a mutual friend that does that.
There is actually a rule, like you can have a dependent person and you can pay them up to a certain amount where they don't have to pay taxes on it, but you can deduct it. So look into it. If it's computer work, have your kids do it. They're probably way better at it than you are anyway. But yeah, I leverage as much as I can. And it's not because I think I'm better than, the task. There's no task I take the trash out at the office. I'll vacuum the floor. I don't care, whatever needs to get done. But at the end of the day, there's only one me and there's only so many hours in the day. And I've got tasks that have to get completed. And my boss probably wouldn't appreciate me saying, oh, I didn't get this really important thing done because I was washing the mirrors at the office. Probably not a great use of my time, so you'll eventually just reach that point where you have to prioritize things. And I think it's kind of a self-exploration journey. It's not like you're just going to wake up one day and go, I'm going to delegate today. It really just a lot of people unfortunately kind of hit a wall and then they're forced to go, maybe I need something different. Maybe it's an intervention of you're a workaholic and you're going to kill yourself. I haven't had those conversations. Yes, I have. I'm that one that everyone's like, you're going to die early if you don't slow down. Like, yeah. I'll get to it. So I'm trying to get better at it because I mean, at some point, it really is for your own well-being. It's not just to save money or save time. You got to have a quality of life too. And I think agents, if you're busy, if you're a producing agent, you really need to take a hard look at the tasks that you're doing every day, every week, and figure out what is it that you can push off to somebody else to free you up to do the either better revenue generating stuff or have a life, book appointments with yourself in your calendar if you have to, do what it takes.
And that's like being busy versus being productive, right? And since Michael brought up predictable revenue, we can rattle it off to someone or raffle it off to someone on the call today. I'm going to bring up a book around that concept that you just referred to, Stephen, called Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. Excellent book. And the first question is, should I be doing this or can someone else be doing it? And think about it. If you have an SOP or a playbook in place already, how much easier it is to leverage someone else to go. I mean, and you were joking like wrapping a present. That's important if you're going to your parents' birthday or, your son's soccer game or something. You want to grow your business with people, but you also want to have people on your team so you can spend time with family, so you can do the things that you want to do. So you're not, dropping dead early because you stayed busy when you didn't really have to be.
Okay, so I know we're pushing our time limits, but there's one last thing that I want to talk about, and I feel like the you guys will have a good take on this. So we've been talking about what are the things that you can do to get more time back throughout the course of the week, but there are things that happen that take time out of our week. Do you know what I'm talking about? And what I mean by that is like things like constant interruptions or people that are coming into your office so how are ways that we can get time back by having those boundaries with other people, whether that be in the office or distractions at your house? How are ways that you find that are easier to get time back into what you just said, productivity versus being busy? How do you get that time back for yourself? Michael, I know you have to go. So do you want to go first?
Yeah, go ahead, Michael. You're muted.
Thank you. Just automated. I mean, I can't tell you how much I leverage certain tools to take my time back, but also expand on things that I want to do that I couldn't do previously. So I mean, it's leveraging automation, it's leveraging artificial intelligence that not just helps me get my time back, but also helps me ideate and create for the future.
I love it. Perfect. Sorry, Steven, you were talking. You were,
I got three really fast, easy things.
Okay.
No is a complete sentence. Do not disturb on your phone, and time block on your calendar. If people have access to your calendar and they can set appointments, leave yourself some blocks. Like, I'm going to block this for me time or executive time, whatever you want to call it. Put your phone on do not disturb so you're not hitting the dings and all that stuff. And when you tell someone no, don't have to justify it. I'm sorry, I can't do that. Or I'll have to do it later. You have to take back control of your schedule.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. Well, one, the do not disturb thing, I definitely need to use that way more often. But I do think, setting boundaries is something that's good, not just in work, but also in your personal life. So it's just something that's a good skill to have. Maybe we'll have a playbook on setting boundaries. But, this is going to be one of those things where it is that self-discipline where you have to make that a priority for yourself. That way you do get those hours of productivity back throughout the course of the week. Okay. All right. We're like way over time. So thank you all for being here. Everybody that joined us on the Renegade Consortium. We are going to start having this be, I think, a little bit more of a podcast format. So you'll be able to view this retroactively until we go out on the road and we all meet in Nashville. So thank you all for being here, and we'll see you in the next one.